Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm Kevin Laymon, a pastor and a Christian therapist here in Wilmington, North Carolina. It is freezing cold in my studio today, but I have got something hot for you. I have developed a unseen realm Michael Heiser AI module for ChatGPT that I want to share with you. And not only do I want to show you how I built it, but I want to show you how you can use it for free in your own study and exploration of the scripture. So who is Michael Heiser? Well, Michael Heiser wrote a very academic book called The Unseen Realm back in 2014, 2015 that talks about his theology of the divine counsel and has since kind of been, we've come to know this as like the divine counsel worldview. I have tried to figure out how I would explain the divine counsel worldview in about 30 seconds, and there's just no way I can do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this AI module define it for us here in just a minute. But it all began Psalm 82, right? Here's Psalm 82. This is where Michael Heiser's journey began. And to be clear, to get to a divine counsel worldview, you don't have to begin with Psalm 82, but I just wanted to show you guys this real quick. We have plenty of resources on our channel dealing with Psalm 82 and how Heiser began his journey and the conclusions that he came to. So look at this here real quick. God takes his stand in the congregation of God. He judges in the midst of gods. So Heiser sees this. He's a renowned Hebrew scholar, and he goes, what in the world does that mean? And his answer to that question is why he wrote The Unseen Realm. Now, this AI module I originally designed to be used in helping create content for our Veiled Kingdoms YouTube channel. Now, many of you have kind of recognized that I've been moving a little bit away from Veiled Kingdoms only content and trying to get more into just looking at Bible teaching in general, trying to help my viewers think more biblically. And so that might mean that at times we go outside of the Veiled Kingdoms type stuff. But originally, that's how the channel started, kind of. But for this video, we'll say that originally that's kind of how this channel started. And Grant and I were using this tool to kind of help us think through ideas for episodes, ideas for different types of content strategies and what to build into each episode. But now that I'm moving a little beyond Veiled Kingdoms, this has just become a very good resource. And I was using it the other day and I thought, man, I really just need to share this with my audience. There's no reason for me to be the only one using it. To be clear, I do not make any money off of this. I have purchased every single item that I use in building this AI that requires a purchase anyway. I mean, some of this stuff is just available for free online, but all of the books that feed this AI, I have purchased. It's also important to note that the AI cannot replicate copies of the material. So you can't go into my AI and say, print me out a version of The Unseen Realm. It will not do that. It synthesizes thought between all of Heiser's work, and it will answer questions for you, and it will help give you conversational prompts and things like that. It'll help you think through certain passages of scripture, but it will not duplicate word for word Michael Heiser's content. And I would say too, that even if you could care less about Michael Heiser's Unseen Realm or who Michael Heiser was, this will be a really helpful video for you, just showing you how you can build a custom AI for any theologian that you would like to track and maybe interact with. I mean, we could do one for John MacArthur or John Piper or Charles Spurgeon. Martin Lloyd-Jones would be really fun. We could duplicate this process for a lot of different guys to kind of get into their minds, in quotes, of course, and understand how they think about things. So let's dive into how I made this GPT. So the first thing to make a GPT is you have to subscribe to GPT's base package that allows you to develop modules. Okay, so you can't develop a custom module like this if you're not paying, I guess it's the $20 a month, which is really well worth it because it gives you unlimited queries of the system. It allows you to use the image generator and things like that. So it's a really good I think it's well worth the $20 a month that I pay for it. Particularly because I'm able to develop these GPTs. The good news is you don't need this $20 a month fee to have access to the GPT that I have built for you. You only need it if you want to build your own. So this is kind of how GPT would open up, right? And to get to this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here to the top right corner and I'm going to go to my GPTs. And you can see I have two of them here. Ark is my Michael Heiser Unseen Realm GPT. I named it Ark because Archangel. I think it's kind of cool. And then there's Zeke, which is one that I am actually building for a Kevin Laymon GPT that deals a lot with my New Heart theology, counseling methodologies, counseling theology, counseling strategies, all of those things. So it helps me think through all that. I'm real big on the New Heart in counseling. And so I named it Zeke, Ezekiel 36, New Heart language there. But we're not going to look at that one today. If there's enough demand on this, maybe I'll come look at this one later with you guys. But we're going to look at Ark today. And so here's Ark, and to edit it, I'm going to go into here and we're going to see right away, we've got some prompts here. Okay. So it'll allow me to create something so I can dive right in. And what I can do in create is give it prompts. So let's say I want Ark to generate content in the tone and voice of Michael Heiser, then I can ask it to do that. Or I can have it generate in the tone and voice of John MacArthur or whatever. I can also use this prompt to prioritize my resources, which I'll talk more about here in a minute. But I want certain resources to be given more weight than others. And so I can program it to do that. I can program if I want like my stuff given to me in outlines or in prose form or in both. So essentially what I'm doing in Create is I'm telling the module, I'm not giving it the specific knowledge that I want it to pull from. I'm just telling it as a framework, here's how I want you to work. Now, for the sake of this video, I've already done all that. I've been using this for 6 months now. And we get here. Okay, so the name is Ark. I can change that if I want to. It generated this little logo for me. I thought it was cool. So here we go. Here's the description. It generates theological content blending the unseen realm and the chaos dragon perspectives. And I'm going to talk about the chaos dragon here in a second. And now in the instructions, and this is kind of I didn't write this in the instructions. This is synthesized from all the commands that I gave it in the prompt that I just showed you. So it helps me think about content for the YouTube channel Veiled Kingdoms, focusing on the unseen realm, spiritual warfare, and biblical symbolism. Ark draws from the biblical sources, particularly the Legacy Standard Bible, which is my personal favorite translation, but you can use any kind of translation you want in here. Even if you were using my module, you can ask it to, in a particular session, to use a different version of the Bible if you would like. So the Legacy Standard Bible, and it integrates insights from theological perspectives of Michael Heiser's work, such as the unseen realm, reversing Herman, and other materials in the ancillary library provided, as well as core doctrines from the New Heart theology and themes from Chaos Dragon documents. So it's not actually doing this anymore. I canceled this out. You'll see that that document's no longer here. I canceled that out because now I have my own module that deals with things from that perspective. This foundation emphasizes the concept of chaos order, creation, and spiritual conflict as represented in the biblical symbolism of creatures like Leviathan, Nahash, and the Tannin. So that's kind of talking about and looping in what's going on here with the chaos dragon. Then it gives us these conversation starters. And these are automatically generated off of the content that I loaded into here. But what's interesting is I can change these to whatever I want. So I can make these. So for instance, if I know a lot of people are going to be using this, I can change these 4 conversation starters once a week and you guys can come in and kind of interact with a different conversation. And what's cool is your interaction with it then gets loaded into this and kind of helps the AI system better produce and, or not produce, better generate content and answers from there. So you'll see this is what it would look like if you opened it up and here are those 4 prompts that match this. But I could come in here and create a 5th one, a 6th one, and create as many as I want. Okay, so this is where things get pretty interesting. This is the knowledge base that it pulls from. And you're going to see that I have 4 documents that I have uploaded into my knowledge base for this Michael Heiser Unseen Realm AI module. The catch right now is that you can only have 10 of these documents. That's the limit. Even if you're paying for the service, the limit is 10 documents. But there really isn't a hard limit on how long each of those documents can be. So you can cram a whole bunch in to one particular document and then upload that into the system, to the point now where I'm not really seeing why there would ever be a need for more than 10 documents. It aggravated me at first. I was like, man, I'd really like to just be able to put 75 different documents in here. Now I'm kind of understanding, especially the way that it synthesizes information and the way that you can prioritize certain documents over others. It's actually better to have fewer documents if you can get away with it. And I'm going to explain how I decided on my documents for this. And another thing I'm going to show you is that you do run into a little bit of a memory limitation as you're going through this that has nothing to do with ChatGPT. It more has to do with the way that Google Drive is storing the information. Of course, the first thing that I have here, and again, this is purchased, I own, in fact, I have a copy of The Unseen Realm on the shelf right there under the red Bible, and I have it on Kindle, and I have it in Logos. And I've purchased dozens of copies for friends. So yes, I have purchased The Unseen Realm, and I have the EPUB document right here, and I have uploaded the EPUB document as the core primary source of this AI. So the AI, ARC, knows that I want Michael Heiser's Unseen Realm to be the standard by which all of the other content that I upload, all the other knowledge that I upload has to be weighed against the Unseen Realm, which is a nice minute to pause and explain this is why this is better than just going to ChatGPT in general. Because when you create a ChatGPT module, the content that it generates, the answers, the thinking that it generates is only based off of what you give it to work from. So if I were to ask a question about Psalm 82 in general ChatGPT, it's going to pull from a lot of different people's resources, right? If I ask it in ARC, it's only going to pull from Michael Heiser's stuff that I have uploaded here into ARC. So The Unseen Realm, that is his first book, 2014, 2015. That is the primary resource, and it knows that everything has to go through this and be weighed against what he's written in this. The next thing I have is, or the next one I want to talk about, is the Heiser Ancillary Library. Now, I have included 3 other books that I want it to consider that Michael Heiser wrote. Again, all of them that I have purchased, and that would be Reversing Hermann, Angels, and Demons, which those are not, I'm not talking about the biblical categories. Those are the actual titles of his books. I was able to find free PDFs for those online, but like I said, I've also purchased the books. And then what I did, and this is where I was talking about the limitations. So this is the ARC files. These are the only files that I'm using in here. I have the Unseen Realm EPUB somewhere else. This core document was the Veiled Kingdoms core document. I'm not using that anymore because this isn't just for Veiled Kingdoms. So I pulled that out. But you can see I keep these here. Now, Heiser's Ancillary Library, if I were to try to just open this on this particular video, it might take 2 or 3 minutes because it's 500 and something pages long. And I mean, it is dense with like outline and information. But before I started recording, I went ahead and opened it for us so that we can see it. So this is what this one looks like internally. You see 505 pages. And this is Reversing Hermann, Demons, and Angels. And so I have all 3 of those books in here, and they are considered ancillary resources for Michael Heiser. So it's going to first read Unseen Realm as the top priority. Then it's going to weigh everything against what's found in Heiser's ancillary library. Then it's going to weigh against the Naked Bible podcast. The Naked Bible podcast is a 300+ episode podcast that features Michael Heiser. I don't know that he's on every single episode, but it definitely features him in almost all of them. From what I could tell, 90+%, maybe 100%. I feel like there were a few in there that he's not on, but I could be wrong about that. The important thing here is this document's the same way. So what I've done is I've gone in, I've transcribed a bunch of the Naked Bible podcast episodes and then dumped them into a single file with the categories laid out, the episode categories laid out in an outline format so that it can pull now from those transcripts as well. Now, I have not done the entire Naked Bible podcast because, like I said, it's 300 something episodes. So I tried to focus on the primary episodes that deal with the Unseen Realm. But for instance, he also has a great series on there about walking through Leviticus, and talking about sacred space and divine temple language and all of that. And it is fascinating. So I want to work that in at some point too, which will probably be like ancillary information, because it's not really unseen realm stuff, but it's also very, very important, or could be helpful at least in trying to understand Michael Heiser's mind. So I have plans to do that later, probably on a separate document. But for now, I have the Naked Bible podcast and most of the episodes that deal with the unseen realm. And then finally, you might be wondering, well, what's the Bible Project doing in there? You guys know the Bible Project, I'm sure. The Bible Project did, I think it's a 25 episode series on the chaos dragon. They trace this theme of chaos and death throughout Scripture, and they show how it pops up allegorically over and over and over again. I mean, from the first pages of Genesis all the way through to Revelation. Fantastic series. I'm going to link all of these resources for you down in the description. But the reason that I put this in there is, first and foremost, I think it pairs really, really well with Michael Heiser's content. Second, I am under the impression that Michael Heiser, and somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm under the impression that Michael Heiser actually consulted on this project with Tim Mackie, who's also a Hebrew genius. So I thought that it was appropriate to put Michael Heiser, because I mean, he's got his stamp on this work. And I know he's worked with the Bible Project on several different things dealing with unseen realm stuff, Psalm 82 stuff, angels, demons, all of that. I know for a fact he's consulted on those projects with Tim Mackie. And I'm like 99% sure this Chaos Dragon project was one that he also consulted on. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I do know Michael Heiser. I always say I knew Michael Heiser, but Michael Heiser didn't know me. And that's very true. I did an interview with him all the way back in 2015 when The Unseen Realm had just come out and was just going into publication and circulation. I cherish that time. I love the idea that I got to do that with him, but he wouldn't know my name or who I am from anybody. So I know there are some guys who watch this channel who were much more familiar with him and his work than I was. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he consulted on this project, which is why it's also in the mix here. And it just pairs really well with the content that I already have for him. So you'll see that come out in some of the content that ARC generates. Okay. So I think the next fun thing to do would be to take this bad boy for a test drive. Let's see what this looks like. So I'm just going to go back to the regular old ChatGPT screen. All right, we'll just start here. Boom. Okay. And I'm going to open ARC. And again, I'm going to get you this link. It's going to be in the comments. This is completely free to use. I wouldn't even know how to charge for it if I could charge for it. So you see the description here, right? Generates theology. I showed you that when we were building it. It generates theological content, blending unseen realm and chaos dragon perspectives. Here's those prompts I was talking about that could change or could not change, but you can click on them and get started. But I thought we would start with our own. So what I'm going to say is, what is the divine counsel worldview? And what I'm going to do, since we're on a video here, is I'm going to say in 150 words or less, please. My daughters always tell me to be nice to the AI for when it takes over the world. So there we go. So let's get a 150 word thing and see what we get. All right. The divine counsel worldview is the biblical concept that God presides over a heavenly assembly of spiritual beings, often referred to as sons of God, Psalm 82, Job 1 and 6. This council participates in the governance of the spiritual realm and interacts with human history under God's supreme authority. Rooted in the ancient Near Eastern cultural context, man, this is really good. This perspective emphasizes that Yahweh, the God of Israel, is sovereign over all other spiritual powers, and that's important. And so Michael Heiser in the Unseen Realm explains that these, see, there it is, it's prioritizing the unseen realm. Michael Heiser in the Unseen Realm explains that these beings were originally loyal to God, but some rebelled, influencing humanity and nations. This worldview underscores the spiritual battle between God's kingdom and forces of chaos and rebellion, reflecting divine order, justice, and God's ultimate plan to reclaim and redeem creation. It reveals a supernatural framework that shapes the biblical narrative and our understanding of spiritual conflict. Boom. I hate to say it, guys, but I couldn't say it better myself. So I will say that if you work with AI long enough, you do start to kind of learn that it's got a particular cadence and you start to hear it. So I don't like to use it if I'm actually like presenting content or creating content, because it'll just all end up sounding the same. But if we're talking about just word for word, pretty stinking good explanation. Feel free to pick it apart in the comments if you don't think that it did a good job here, but I think that's a pretty stinking good explanation of divine counsel worldview. Here's the thing. You might be looking into this and you might go, well, I could type that into ChatGPT and it would probably give me the same thing without your little Michael Heiser AI module. And you're probably right. It probably would say something very similar, because when you say divine counsel worldview, it's going to know to pull from guys like Michael Heiser and Tim Mackey. But here's what sets it apart is, what about things that maybe would not be directly associated with Michael Heiser or divine counsel theology? What about that? Well, this is where I think that this tool really shines. So for example, I am preaching this Sunday on Luke 4, 31 to 41. And let's see, actually for fun, we'll pull it up here. Luke 4, 31 to 41. Boom. All right. And you'll see, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is where Jesus comes down to Capernaum after being rejected from Nazareth, right? And he's teaching in the temple on the Sabbath, and a guy comes in. Mark will actually say immediately a guy came in who was possessed by a demon, an unclean spirit, and he was crying out with a loud voice, "Let us alone." And Jesus basically performs an exorcism here, right here in Luke 4. He's also teaching with authority. He's got authority to cast out demons. And then I go all the way down. I don't always listen to these chapter headings. And so I actually go all the way down to 41, where he's also healing people. He heals Simon Peter's mother-in-law here who had a fever. And that's the passage. But what if I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, there's a demon here. There's an unclean spirit here. I'll bet Michael Heiser would have something to say about this for research purposes while I'm prepping my sermon. Now, I don't use AI to write my sermons, but I have no issue using it at all, especially when I've built a specific resource like this for researching. And, I am one of 6 pastors at our church. We all kind of have equal jobs. We share the pulpit, we share counseling ministry, we share everything. And we've had numerous meetings on how we will incorporate AI, which I'll do an entirely different video on maybe at some point. But we are allowed to use it for research. We're just not allowed to use it for copy and paste. At least that's where we're at now. AI is evolving. This is all very, very new. So please don't shoot me if you disagree with that view or whatever. But we're all kind of trying to figure this out on our own. And we're trying to be pretty conservative in the way that we use it. But we also don't want to neglect a good tool that could potentially help us in our prep and therefore help our flock. So I come here and I say, what would Michael Heiser think about Luke 4, 31 to 41? And I'm going to say 311. Man, it's hard to type with this mic over my hands. And then I'm going to say in 150 words or less. Because again, it'll give me 3 pages worth of information if I want it to. I could put in there, give it to me in at least 2,000 words, and it would, but we're going to keep it short. So here's what I would get from this research. Michael Heiser would view Luke 4, 31 to 41 through the lens of spiritual conflict and the kingdom of God confronting hostile spiritual powers. In this passage, Jesus demonstrates his authority by casting out demons and healing the sick, underscoring his role as the Messiah who inaugurates God's rule over creation. Heiser would likely emphasize that the demons' recognition of Jesus as the Holy One of God reflects their awareness of his divine authority and their defeat in the cosmic struggle between order, God's kingdom, and chaos, rebellious spiritual beings. Jesus' authority to command demons and heal disease reveals his power to reclaim dominion over both spiritual and physical realms. This moment aligns with Heiser's divine counsel worldview, portraying Jesus as confronting and dismantling the strongholds of rebellious spiritual entities, a precursor to his ultimate victory over the powers of darkness through the cross and resurrection. That's pretty good. And if I asked for 2,000 words, I'd probably get a whole lot more detail. I would get passage references, cross references, things like that it would give me. But that really helps me look at that passage the way that Michael Heiser might see that passage. And look, I'm not trying to be disrespectful here. I'm not saying this is an exact replica of Michael Heiser's mind. What I am saying is that the AI is synthesizing his thought on a particular subject and answering that question to the best of its ability based on that synthesized thought. So what do I want to do with this thing for the future? Well, part of that will kind of depend on what kind of engagement this video gets. And and what kind of engagement this module gets. I mean, if I get a lot of people interested in it, I may actually take some more time to further develop it and make it into an even better tool. I would like to add the rest of the Naked Bible episodes, particularly like I'd probably start with Leviticus, and then I would like to add some other sections in there as well, would probably be one of the places, but that's a tedious process, man. I got to sit there and transcribe everything. And unless somebody from Michael Heiser's ministry would like to donate the transcripts so that I would not have to go through and do them all myself. But that would certainly be generous, but I understand. I would like to continue adding the Naked Bible stuff, and I would like to look for interviews where he adds something that we haven't heard. And that's going to take some research. That's going to take actually kind of some help from the community, people finding things, because I know there's interviews out there where he might mention something or talk about a perspective of something that maybe he doesn't say anywhere else, right? Like it's kind of like listening to a good jam band. Like the song itself is going to sound pretty much the same every time you hear it. But if you know it well enough, there's little nuances that make every performance of that song unique and different. So I would be looking for interviews that Heiser has done where he's offered a unique or different perspective than what we would just traditionally see in the stuff that he's written or spoken on. And I would say, speaking of community, if you guys have anything that you would like to see added to this, please drop it in the comments. I will do the best I can to accommodate. I'm going to put the link to this, the Naked Bible podcast, all of Heiser's works, as well as the Bible Project Chaos Dragon link, all down in the description. So you can find all of this to use, to research, to look at all on your own. And if this has been helpful to you, I would love it if you could offer a like or a subscribe to the channel. Sharing it with a friend helps this content get out to more folks who may need to hear it. Thank you so much for listening, and God bless.